The first sign that I was no longer welcome at my daughter's wedding was a black line through my name. It was drawn across an ivory place card on a table outside the ballroom. Under the line, someone had written, "Uncle Mark," in blue ink. I stood there in the suit Claire had chosen for me, holding the small white box that contained her mother's wedding handkerchief. Guests moved around me with glasses of champagne, pretending not to notice the father of the bride, reading his own replacement. A young wedding coordinator named Paige stepped close enough that only I could hear her. "Mr. Bennett, Claire asked me to take you to the side entrance." I looked past her toward the ballroom doors. Through the glass, I could see my daughter near the flowers, laughing with her bridesmaids. "Why the side entrance?" I asked. Paige pressed her clipboard against her chest. She said it would be better if you left before the ceremony. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, the venue was scheduled to withdraw $48,000 from my account. It was 1:37. I slipped the crossed-out place card into my coat pocket, held the handkerchief box a little tighter, and asked Paige to bring my daughter to me. "Before I tell you what Claire said, tell me where you are listening from tonight. I have learned that family wounds sound different in every house, but the silence afterward is often the same." Claire came through the doors 5 minutes later. Her dress was beautiful. Her mother would have cried at the sight of it. Claire did not look at the handkerchief box. She looked at the guests behind me, as though measuring how much of a scene I might become. "Dad, please don't do this here." "I have not done anything yet. You argued with Evan last night. His mother is upset. Everyone is already stressed. I asked why your mother's photograph had been removed from the memorial table. It was making the display crowded." There were 6 photographs of Evan's grandparents. Her mouth tightened. "This is exactly what I mean. You always have to keep score." I opened the white box. Inside was Ellen's blue handkerchief, folded around a small card in her handwriting. She had prepared it years before she died, after Claire became engaged to a young man she did not end up marrying. "For my girl, on the day she becomes a wife." Claire glanced at it, then turned her face away. "I already have something blue." I closed the box. "Are you asking me to miss your wedding?" "I'm asking you not to make today harder." "That is not the same answer." She lowered her voice. "Go home, Dad. Go home, Dad. We'll talk after the honeymoon." I waited, because a father can spend a lifetime hearing the child beneath the adult voice. Sometimes the child appears. Sometimes all you hear is the door closing. "Do you want me to leave?" I asked again. Claire looked directly at me. Yes. Behind her, the string quartet began tuning. I nodded once. "What about the final venue payment?" Her expression changed. "Not much, just enough." "You promised to take care of it." "I promised when I was part of the wedding." "You are making the money conditional now?" "No. I am asking whether you understood what you were asking me to do." "Dad, please." "The payment is already arranged." That sentence told me more than she meant it to. She believed the decision was finished because the withdrawal had been scheduled. She believed my part in the day could be removed, while my part in the bill stayed seated at the head table. I gave her the first chance to correct it. "Claire, come outside with me for 10 minutes. Tell me what happened last night. Tell me why my name is crossed out. If you still want me gone after that, I will leave quietly." She looked toward the ballroom. "I don't have 10 minutes. You have $48,000 worth of them." Her eyes hardened. "There, that. That is why you need to go." She turned before I could answer. Paige watched her disappear through the doors. Then she looked at the floor. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. It is not your apology to make." I handed her the white box. "Please give this to Claire after the ceremony, not before. She has already made her choice for today." Then I walked out through the side entrance. I was 68, a retired building inspector. Most of my life, I believed that if I kept the roof steady, the people beneath it would eventually feel safe enough to love one another. That belief had made me useful. It had not made me wise. Claire was our only child. Ellen and I had tried for years before she arrived. When Claire was 8, she insisted on learning how to dance for a school recital. I was clumsy, and she was impatient, so she stood on top of my work shoes while I moved us around the kitchen. Ellen leaned against the counter, laughing and clapping the beat with flour still on her hands. For years afterward, Claire said her first wedding dance would begin the same way. She would stand on my shoes for one turn so her mother could see it from wherever she was. That was the only promise from the wedding I had cared about. The money had come later. When Claire and Evan chose the Hawthorne House, they called it their dream venue. It was an old hotel outside Columbus, with a glass ballroom, a garden terrace, and prices that seemed designed to punish anyone who loved their child. The original estimate was $36,000. Then came upgraded catering, an extra hour, flowers, lighting, security, a larger band, and a farewell brunch. The number grew until the total reached $64,000. I paid the $16,000 deposit directly to the venue. The remaining $48,000 was scheduled as a single electronic withdrawal on the wedding day. I could afford it, but not casually. I postponed replacing the roof on my own house for another year. I also canceled the train trip Ellen and I had planned before her illness. I had kept saving for that journey through the Rockies because finishing it alone felt like one way of keeping a promise. I told myself Claire's wedding mattered more. My friend Martin, who had handled my taxes for 20 years, asked me one question when I moved the money. "Are you paying for a celebration, Tom, or are you paying to avoid a conversation?" I laughed at him. That was the warning I ignored. After Ellen died, Claire and I stopped talking about anything that might lead to tears. Instead, I repaired things. I covered emergencies. I paid for tires, a dental bill, a certification course, and part of the down payment on Claire and Evan's townhouse. When she sounded distant, I offered help. When I felt hurt, I wrote a check. I had confused being needed with being close. Still, I had never imagined she would remove me from her wedding after confirming the final payment was on its way. I sat in my truck in the venue parking lot for 7 minutes. Through the windshield, I watched guests walk past carrying wrapped gifts. A little boy in suspenders pressed both hands against the glass ballroom wall, and his mother pulled him away. My phone showed 1:58. The bank branch was 12 minutes away. I started the engine. At the first traffic light, Claire called. I answered because some part of me still expected her to say, "Come back." "Did you leave?" she asked. "I did." "Good. I mean, not good. I just need everything calm. Is Uncle Mark walking you down the aisle?" A pause. "We decided that would be easiest." "When did you decide?" "Dad, I can't do this now. You crossed out my place card before I arrived. I have to go." "Claire." "What? Did you know before today that you were sending me home?" The line stayed open long enough for me to hear someone ask whether she was ready for photographs. Then she hung up. The credit union lobby was almost empty. A teller named Denise recognized me from the years when I had inspected additions for half the county. "You look sharp, Mr. Bennett," she said. "Big occasion?" "My daughter is getting married." She smiled. "You must be proud." "I am trying to be careful." I asked to speak with a manager. The scheduled payment was not a charge that had already cleared. It was a one-time electronic authorization I had signed with Hawthorne House, allowing the venue to pull up to $48,000 after final reconciliation of the event invoice. Because the withdrawal had not been submitted, I could revoke my authorization. That did not erase the couple's bill. Claire and Evan were the clients named on the event contract. My form only identified me as the financial sponsor for the final payment. The branch manager explained that the venue could still pursue the couple for the balance. The deposit would remain non-refundable. There could also be fees or legal consequences depending on the contract. "I understand," I said. "Would you like time to call them?" I looked at the clock above her door. 2:21. My daughter had been given time to call me back. She had used it to begin her ceremony without me. "Please revoke the authorization." The manager printed 2 copies. I signed both. Then I called Hawthorne House and asked for the event director, Marisol Vega. Marisol had been professional from our first meeting. She knew I was paying the final balance. She also knew I was supposed to walk Claire down the aisle. When I told her I had been asked to leave, she went quiet for a moment. "I was told you chose not to participate," she said. "Who told you that?" "The bride's file was updated this morning. I did not handle the change personally. I did not choose it. I told her I had revoked the payment authorization. She did not argue. She explained that the venue would complete the ceremony and reception because the event was already underway. The account would be moved to the clients, and they would need to provide another payment method before final settlement. "I need to be clear," she said. "This could become expensive for them." "I know. Do you want me to tell Claire before the ceremony ends?" I thought about my daughter standing at the end of an aisle without me. Whatever else she had done, I did not want a financial argument announced while she was exchanging vows. No. Let her finish the ceremony. "And after?" "Tell the truth, nothing more." I ended the call at 2:34. The first concrete decision of the day was done. The rest of the truth was still somewhere inside that ballroom. I drove home in my wedding suit. At 4:18, my phone rang again. This time it was Evan. "What did you do?" "I revoked my authorization." "You cannot cancel a wedding payment in the middle of the wedding. The wedding is still happening. They won't release the dinner service until we sign a replacement agreement." "Then sign it." "We don't have $48,000. Neither did you this morning. You promised us." And Claire told me to leave. That was not about the money. Exactly. He breathed through his nose, slowly and loudly. "My mother is putting $20,000 on her card. We are splitting the rest across 3 accounts. Do you understand what kind of damage this is doing? I understand that the people attending the wedding are being asked to carry the wedding. You're punishing Claire." "No. I stopped volunteering for a place I was not allowed to occupy." He swore under his breath. Then he said something that stayed with me. She was right. You always make your help feel like ownership. The call ended before I could ask whether that was his opinion or hers. At 4:46, Claire called. Dinner was supposed to begin at 5. She was crying, but her anger was stronger than the tears. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I was not there. You knew exactly what would happen. I knew the contract would become your responsibility. You could have waited until tomorrow. You could have waited 10 minutes before removing your father. Evan's family thinks you did this because you couldn't control the wedding. What do you think? I think Mom would be ashamed of you. That sentence reached a place in me the money never could. I sat down at the kitchen table. Do not use your mother to make this easier for yourself. I'm not doing this with you. You already did it. She hung up. Later, I learned that dinner began 42 minutes late. Evan's mother covered part of the balance. 2 credit cards were charged nearly to their limits. Claire signed a short-term payment agreement for the remainder, subject to final review of the invoice. The guests ate, the band played, photographs were taken. From the outside, the wedding survived. That mattered to me, though I did not tell anyone. I did not want Claire's marriage destroyed on its first day. I wanted her decision to belong to her. At 6 that evening, I removed my tie and found the crossed-out place card in my coat pocket. The black line had bled slightly into the paper where my hand had warmed it. I placed it on the kitchen counter beside the blue handkerchief box, which Paige had returned through a delivery driver. Claire had refused it a second time. Then I changed clothes and made myself a sandwich I did not finish. The following morning, Marisol called. I think we need to review the final account, she said. Why? There are 2 versions of the invoice in the event file. The first version was the one I had seen 3 weeks earlier. The second had been uploaded 4 days before the wedding. It included several changes, but one line stood out. North Pine Event Consulting, $9,600. I had never heard of North Pine. Marisol told me the service had been described as coordination between the venue, the band, and outside vendors. Hawthorne House already charged for coordination. The addition had been approved through Claire's event portal. Who owns North Pine? I asked. We are confirming that. Was the charge included in the $48,000 you planned to withdraw from my account? It was. Was I notified? The portal shows an automated notice went to the primary clients. Claire and Evan. They were, not me. I asked Marisol to send me every document I was entitled to receive as the person who had signed the financial authorization. She agreed to provide the payment form, the invoice versions, and the communications that directly referenced my authorization. I did not accuse Claire of stealing. I did not know enough. But the answer to one question had opened another. Why remove me from the wedding? Because I had argued about the memorial table. Why had a private disagreement become a planned exclusion? Because someone had changed the seating chart before I arrived. Why did the final invoice include a company I had never approved? Because Claire and Evan believed my payment would clear without my seeing the changes. By Monday, Martin was sitting across from me at the same kitchen table where I had signed the wedding budget months before. He read the invoices twice. North Pine is registered to a man named Lucas Reeve, he said. Who is he? Evan's business partner. Evan owned a small digital marketing company with Lucas. The company had struggled during the previous year. Claire had once mentioned that Evan was waiting on 2 large clients, but she had not asked me for help. North Pine had been formed 6 weeks before the wedding. That did not prove fraud. People create companies for legitimate reasons. It did mean a wedding vendor connected to Evan had been added to an invoice I was expected to pay without review. Martin tapped the paper. You need a lawyer to look at the contract. I don't want to sue my daughter. I did not say sue her. I said understand what you signed. That distinction became important. My attorney, Helen Brooks, reviewed the agreement that afternoon. She confirmed what the bank manager had said. Claire and Evan were responsible for the event costs. My separate payment authorization could be revoked before submission. The venue could keep the deposit and collect legitimate charges from the couple. Any disputed vendor fee would need documentation. Do not threaten anyone, Helen said. Ask for records. When people are upset, paperwork keeps the facts straight. So I asked for records. North Pine had submitted a one-page invoice for creative logistics and brand integration. There were no hours, no staff names, no deliverables, and no separate contract signed by Hawthorne House. Evan had approved it as the groom. Claire had approved the revised total as the bride. The payment would have moved from me to the venue, then from the venue to North Pine after the event. When Marisol realized the vendor was connected to the groom, she suspended that portion of the invoice and began an internal review. The discovery did not make me feel victorious. It made me wonder how long Claire had known. I sent her one message. We need to talk about North Pine. I will not argue by text. I am available Tuesday or Wednesday evening. She replied 4 hours later. Evan handled vendors. Stop looking for crimes because you are angry. I wrote back. I did not use the word crime. Did Evan tell you I had? She did not respond. On Wednesday, she came to my house with Evan. They sat together on the sofa while I stayed in the chair across from them. The blue handkerchief box remained in the hallway closet. I had not decided what to do with it. Evan began by insisting that North Pine had performed legitimate work. He listed brand support, vendor coordination, and design help, but when I asked for something measurable, a schedule, a report, named staff, or a separate contract, he could not produce one. He said Lucas had helped them shape the event experience. The phrase sounded polished enough to survive a sales meeting, but not an invoice review. Claire looked exhausted. Their honeymoon had been shortened because they needed to deal with the venue account. I asked whether she knew North Pine belonged to Evan's business partner. She admitted that she did. She also knew the revised total would be drawn from the amount I had authorized. We were going to explain after the wedding, she said. After the money moved? She answered that the charge was still connected to the event. Evan added that they had not planned to pocket anything. Lucas had spent months helping his company without being fully paid. Evan believed the wedding work gave him a legitimate way to settle part of that debt. If the company stabilized, he said, 3 employees would keep their hours. It was the first explanation he had given that sounded human rather than rehearsed. I understood why he wanted to help his partner. I did not understand why he believed my account was the proper place to do it without asking me. I asked why no one had disclosed the relationship before adding nearly $10,000 to my payment. Neither of them answered directly. So I asked the question that mattered more. Why was I removed? Claire blamed the rehearsal dinner. She said I had confronted Evan, made his family feel accused, and acted as though paying gave me the right to question every choice. I reminded her that my so-called confrontation had been one question about her mother's missing photograph. That is what you never hear, she said. A question from you comes with a bill attached. The words hurt because there was truth inside them. I had used money instead of talking to her. After Ellen died, I fixed problems because I did not know how to ask whether Claire was angry, lonely, or disappointed in me. I thought help kept us close. From Claire's side, it may have felt like supervision. "I am sorry for that," I told her. Her expression softened. Evan's did not. I continued, before the apology could be mistaken for surrender. Feeling watched did not give them permission to conceal a related party fee or confirm my payment while planning to remove me. Claire admitted they had made a bad decision, though she resisted naming which part was wrong. I offered them a clear way forward. They could tell Hawthorne House that North Pine was connected to Evan, withdraw the unsupported invoice, and provide any genuine work records. Once the legitimate balance was established, I would consider whether any limited help still made sense. Evan heard only the condition. He accused me of canceling the money and then trying to control the repair. "No," I said, "I am giving you a chance to correct what you hid." Claire reminded me that they already owed Susan $20,000 and could not absorb the remaining balance easily. I reminded her that she and Evan had signed the event contract before I offered to pay. Evan stood and called the conversation pointless. I stayed seated and asked Claire one final time whether she would disclose the North Pine connection and acknowledge that I had not been informed before the fee was added. Her first concern was not the truth. It was that Hawthorne House might refuse to work with Evan's company later. "If the work was real, the records will show it," I said. She accused me of choosing the satisfaction of being right over having a daughter. That was her second chance. "Sit back down," I said. "Say what is true. We can still leave this room as family." Evan placed a hand against her back. Claire looked at him, then at me. "We are done being managed by you." They left. The next evening, Claire called without Evan. Her voice was quieter than it had been in my living room. "I told Marisol to remove North Pine," she said. "Evan is angry, but the invoice should never have gone through without you knowing who Lucas was. Thank you for telling her. I also should not have sent you home." I waited. She said the rehearsal dinner had frightened her. Evan's mother was upset. Evan believed I was searching for another argument, and Claire had panicked at the thought of conflict spilling into the ceremony. "I made the decision that morning," she said. "It was cruel, but it was not about getting your money and throwing you away." That was the explanation I had wanted to believe from the beginning, a frightened daughter making one ugly decision under pressure, not a daughter who had separated her father from his bank account. She came by on Sunday afternoon. She did not bring Evan an invoice or a request. She sat at the kitchen table while I made tea, and for 20 minutes we spoke more honestly than we had in years. I admitted that after Ellen died, I had turned every difficult feeling into a repair job. Claire admitted that she had started hearing every offer of help as a reminder that I did not trust her judgment. "I do not know how to fix this," she said, "but I do not want the wedding to be the last real conversation we have." Then we start with the full truth. She held my eyes. "You have it." When she left, she paused beside the hallway closet where the handkerchief box was stored. She did not ask for it, but she rested her fingers on the closet door before walking outside. For the first time since the wedding, I believed we might repair something before the money was settled. 2 days later, Hawthorne House completed its account review. The North Pine charge was removed, because no verifiable work records had been provided. Final headcount reconciliation and an unused farewell brunch beverage package reduced the bill by another $5,850. After the $16,000 deposit, the legitimate unpaid balance was $32,550, plus financing fees from the emergency agreement Claire and Evan had signed. Susan's $20,000 card payment was credited to the venue, leaving Claire and Evan responsible for $12,550 plus fees on a 6-month schedule. They also owed Susan the full amount she had advanced. No one was arrested, no house was seized, no marriage ended overnight. They simply inherited the cost of the decisions they had made. I might have allowed the matter to end there if the wedding file had not contained one more document. Marisol called and asked whether I wanted a copy of the seating and security update that referenced me. "What does it say?" "I think you should read it yourself." The packet arrived by email. The change had been requested 3 days before the wedding, not that morning. Claire had asked for Uncle Mark to escort her down the aisle. She had asked for my place card to be reassigned. She had also asked security to be available near the side entrance if I objected. The message thread began with Evan saying I had become too involved and might create a scene over the memorial display or the vendor costs. Claire's reply was short. "Dad can still cover the final payment. I just need him gone before dinner if he starts questioning everything." A later message from Paige asked whether I had been told. Claire answered, "Not yet. Once the payment is submitted, I will handle him." I read those lines at the kitchen table. Then I read them again, because sometimes the mind keeps looking for a kinder sentence hidden underneath the one in front of it. There was no kinder sentence. The decision had not been made during an emotional wedding morning. It had been planned while Claire was still calling me, thanking me, and asking whether the $48,000 was ready. She had not removed me because I caused a scene. She had prepared to remove me if I noticed what they had added to the bill. That was the deeper betrayal. Not that she chose her husband over me. A married woman will often stand beside her husband, and sometimes she should. The betrayal was that she had separated me into 2 parts, the father who could be hidden and the account that could remain visible. That night, I took the crossed-out place card from the drawer. I filled a shallow bowl with warm water and dampened the corner of a clean cloth. I do not know what I expected. Perhaps I thought the black marker would lift if I rubbed gently enough. It did not. The ink spread into the fibers. My printed name blurred at the edges. I kept rubbing until the card softened beneath my fingers. Then I stopped. I set it flat under the heavy cookbook Ellen used every Sunday. My hands stayed on the cover longer than they needed to. The kitchen clock moved from 9:14 to 9:15. I looked toward the hallway closet where the blue handkerchief waited in its white box. For a few seconds, I could see Ellen in that kitchen again, not as a memory with movement and sound, but as the shape of the life that had once made the room feel full. I wanted to ask her what I had done wrong. The answer I could hear was my own. I had made it too easy for Claire to believe love arrived through transfers, repairs, and paid invoices. Every time she pulled away, I had sent help instead of saying, "I miss you." Every time she disappointed me, I had swallowed it and solved the next problem. But my mistake did not make her choice harmless. I turned off the kitchen light without moving the cookbook. The next morning, I called Helen. "I do not want more money returned to me," I said. "I want the record corrected." She helped me write a plain letter to the venue. I confirmed that I had revoked my authorization before submission. I also disputed the North Pine fee because it had not been disclosed to me. I stated that I would not fund the remaining balance and would not pursue the deposit already paid. $16,000 was gone. I accepted that loss because the ceremony and reception had happened. Vendors had worked, food had been served. My decision did not entitle me to make innocent people absorb the cost. I also asked that any further communication about the couple's account go to Claire and Evan, not me. Helen read the letter and nodded. That ends the payment arrangement. Not my role as her father. No, she said. That part is still yours, whether she accepts it or not. Hawthorne House scheduled a final account meeting. Claire and Evan attended with Evan's mother, Susan. Marisol represented the venue. Helen came with me, though I asked her to speak only if the contract became unclear. The meeting took place in a small office behind the hotel lobby. There were no flowers, no music, and no guests to impress. Just a square table, 6 chairs, a pitcher of water, and a stack of paper. Evan spoke first. He described my canceled authorization as retaliation carried out in the middle of their wedding. Marisol corrected the purpose of the meeting. The venue was there to finalize the account and review the unsupported vendor submission. Susan said I could have handled the disagreement privately. I reminded her that I had asked Claire for 10 minutes before the ceremony and had been refused. Claire did not look at me. Marisol placed the original invoice beside the revised one. She explained that North Pine had not provided enough documentation for its fee. The charge had been removed, and the company would not be approved for future work without a full review. Evan objected to the implication. Marisol remained precise. Unsupported is not the same as fraudulent, she said. It means we cannot bill a client for work we cannot verify. She reviewed the balance. Susan's $20,000 payment would be credited. Claire and Evan remained responsible for the rest under the contract and the emergency schedule they had signed. Only then did Claire look at me. You could end this right now. I could pay it, I said. That would not end what happened. She argued that the debt would burden the first year of her marriage. I reminded her that she and Evan had selected a wedding they could not afford without outside help. She replied that I had offered the money. I offered to celebrate with you. You offered money, Dad. I offered it because I thought I was sharing the day with you. Claire asked whether attending had been a condition she had failed to read. No. I never imagined I would need to write down that the bride's father was welcome. Evan said the exchange proved his point. I could not separate love from control. I took the printed security and seating messages from my folder and placed them on the table. I can love Claire without signing another payment. Claire recognized the first page before anyone explained it. One hand moved over the message as though covering the words could return them to private space. Susan asked what she was looking at. Marisol explained that the messages directly referenced my payment authorization and my planned removal, so they had been included in the account review. Claire accused me of going through every detail of her wedding. I told her I had read only what explained why my name was crossed out before I arrived. She returned to the claim that I would have caused a scene. I reminded her that I had asked about Ellen's photograph and a changed invoice. Evan said they had been protecting the wedding from becoming another argument about my money. I turned to Claire. Did you plan to send me home before I arrived? She stared at the table. Susan quietly told her to answer. She admitted that she had. I asked whether she had planned to warn me before the final payment cleared. She admitted she had not. She also confirmed that she knew North Pine belonged to Evan's partner. My last question was the simplest. After the money reached the venue, did you still think of it as mine? Claire first said it belonged to the wedding. When I repeated the question, her voice became smaller. No. There was no dramatic collapse, just a daughter admitting that once the money left my account, she no longer considered the person attached to it. I folded the message thread and returned it to my folder. You invited my money, Claire. You did not invite your father. She said she had been angry and felt controlled. I told her I had already apologized for using financial help instead of honest conversation, and I would keep owning that mistake. But I will not pay you to erase what you did. Susan looked away. Evan demanded to know whether I truly intended to leave them with the debt. The debt was yours before I offered to pay it. He said they could not manage the venue schedule and their mortgage. I told him they would have to revise their budget, negotiate, or sell something. Those were difficult choices, but they were adult choices. When he asked how I could watch my daughter struggle, I answered more sharply than I intended. I watched her get married from a parking lot. Claire flinched. I did not enjoy the line. The truth can be necessary without being pleasant. Marisol asked whether I was confirming that no new authorization would be provided. I said yes. Helen slid my letter across the table, and Marisol signed the receipt. The practical part was finished. Claire remained seated. Do you still love me? I kept my eyes on her. I do. Then how can you do this? Because loving you and financing you are no longer the same thing. She looked down at her wedding ring. I wanted to reach across the table and promise to fix the account the way I had fixed everything else. The reflex felt almost physical, like a hand moving toward a familiar light switch. I kept my hands where they were. I hope we repair this, I said, but the next time you come to me, I hope it is because you want your father, not because another bill is due. Then I stood. The consequences arrived slowly after that. Claire and Evan canceled 2 planned trips. They sold the newer of their cars and replaced it with an older one. Evan took additional contract work. Claire picked up weekend shifts at the dental office where she managed scheduling. The venue accepted the payment plan. There was no lawsuit because they paid on time. North Pine never received the $9,600. Hawthorne House removed it from its approved vendor list until it could document actual services. Evan blamed me for losing a business opportunity, but the venue's decision came from his own unsupported invoice. Susan asked Claire and Evan to begin repaying the $20,000 she had charged. She was not cruel about it. She simply could not carry the balance indefinitely. Their marriage became tense, according to relatives, but it did not end. I was glad. Claire did not need another broken relationship. She needed to learn how to stay in one without using someone else as the floor beneath it. For nearly 3 months, she did not call me. I did not chase her. That was harder than canceling the payment. Every Sunday, I checked my phone more often than I admitted. I kept the volume turned up while I worked in the yard. When unknown numbers appeared, I answered too quickly. In October, she finally came to my house. She stood on the porch wearing the same gray coat she had worn to her mother's last hospital appointment. Her face looked older than it had at the wedding. I opened the door but did not step aside yet. "What do you need?" I asked. The question hurt her. I could see that. "We cannot make next month's venue payment and the amount we owe Susan," she said. Evan's biggest client paused their contract. There was the rescue request the old version of me had been trained to answer. "How much?" "7,000 would get us through December." I nodded slowly. "Have you spoken to the venue?" "They will extend the schedule, but the fees go up." "Have you spoken to Susan?" "She said she can wait on part of it." "Then you have options." "Dad, I am asking you." "I understand." She looked past me into the hallway. "Can I come in?" "Not for this conversation." Her eyes filled. "You said you wanted me to come back as your daughter." "I still do. I am your daughter, and you came because a payment is due." She lowered her face. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "I will sit with you and review the budget. I will help you call the venue. I will give you Martin's number if you want financial guidance. I will not pay the balance. You can afford it." That is not the question anymore. Evan will say you are trying to control us again. Then do not take my advice. But do not ask for my money and call my boundaries control. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. "Are you ever going to forgive me?" "I am working on it." "What does that mean?" "It means I do not wake up wishing you harm. It means I still want your marriage to survive. It means I will answer if you call, because you are sick, afraid, or lonely." "And the money?" "I will not pay it." She nodded several times, as though each one helped her accept a different part of the answer. Then she walked back to her car. I stood in the doorway until she drove away. I did not feel strong. I felt like a father who had finally stopped using rescue as proof of love. The venue extended their schedule. Claire and Evan made the payments. It took them 11 months to settle the wedding account and another 6 to repay Susan. During that time, Claire called twice for reasons that had nothing to do with money. The first call lasted 4 minutes. She asked whether I still had her mother's recipe for chicken and dumplings. I told her where to find the copy Ellen had written for her. The second call came on a rainy Thursday evening. "I drove past the house," she said. "You could have stopped. I did not know if I was allowed. You are allowed to knock." That was all we said. 2 weeks later, she knocked. She carried 2 cups of coffee and no purse. I noticed the absence because I had spent months training myself to expect an envelope, a bill, or a request. "What do you need?" I asked again. This time, she did not flinch. 20 minutes, she said, maybe 30 if you can stand me. I stepped aside. We sat at the kitchen table. She placed 1 coffee in front of me and kept the other between both hands. "I have been angry at you for years," she said. I could feel it. "No, I don't think you do. After Mom died, you started fixing everything." She turned the coffee cup between her hands. "If I was sad, you paid for something. If I made a mistake, you cleaned it up. I began to feel like you did not trust me to survive my own life. I probably did not, and I hated needing you. So you decided not to need me at the wedding. I decided I could use the money without feeling like I owed you a place." The honesty was painful, but it was honest. She looked toward the hallway closet. "Do you still have Mom's handkerchief?" "I still have it. I am not asking for it." "All right. I just wanted to know whether you threw it away." "I did not." She nodded. "I am sorry I made Uncle Mark walk me down the aisle. He cares about you." "He does. But he was not you. I looked at my coffee. Why did you remove your mother's photograph? Evan's mother said the memorial table looked uneven. I knew it would hurt you, and I agreed anyway because I was tired of defending every choice. Did you believe the North Pine work was real? At first, yes. Then I stopped asking because the money helped Evan. I told myself it was still part of the wedding. Why tell me now? Because the debt is paid, and I needed to know whether I could come here without wanting anything. I looked at her for a long time. You can. She began crying then, quietly. No performance, no speech. She covered her mouth and tried to breathe through it. I did not tell her everything was fine. It was not. I moved the box of tissues closer. After a while, I opened the hallway closet and brought out the white box. I set it between us. Claire touched the lid but did not open it. Mom wrote something inside, I said. I know. Paige gave it back to you. She did. I was afraid if I read it, I would have to think about what I was doing. That may have been the point. She gave a small, tired laugh. Can I read it now? Read it. She unfolded the blue handkerchief and found Ellen's card. The same sentence waited beneath the fold. For my girl, on the day she becomes a wife. Claire pressed the handkerchief against her lips. I turned toward the window and gave her the privacy of not being watched. When she finished, she folded it carefully and placed it back in the box. You should keep it here, she said. Why is that? Because I am not ready to treat it like it deserves. That answer told me more than an apology could have. She stayed 43 minutes. When she left, she hugged me at the door. I did not hold on too long. Afterward, I opened the cookbook that had been pressing the place card flat. The paper was dry. My name was still crossed out, but the card no longer curled at the edges. I turned it over and wrote the date Claire came for coffee without asking for money. Then I placed it in the white box beneath Ellen's handkerchief. I did not keep it to punish her. I kept it because healing built on denial is only another kind of hiding. Claire and I are not back to what we were before the wedding. I do not think we should be. Before the wedding, we were close only when I was useful and quiet. She mistook my payments for permission to avoid honesty. I mistook her dependence for affection. Now we meet for coffee twice a month. Sometimes the conversation is awkward. Sometimes Evan comes. He and I are civil, though trust has not returned. He has never asked me for business help again. Claire has apologized more than once, but I have not given her access to my accounts, added her to my property documents, or resumed paying her emergencies. Forgiving her did not mean restoring every privilege we had before. Some doors could open slowly. Others would stay closed until trust, not guilt, gave me a reason to change that. Last spring, Claire asked me to attend a small anniversary dinner at their house. There were 6 people, no photographer, no band, no place cards. Before we ate, she placed her mother's photograph on the sideboard. She did not announce it. She did not look at me to see whether I noticed. That made it matter more. I still think about the $48,000 sometimes, not because I regret canceling it, because I came close to paying it. Had the bank processed the withdrawal 1 hour earlier, I might have spent the rest of my life trying to convince myself that being used was better than being excluded. Money did not create the fracture between my daughter and me. It only made the fracture visible. The hardest part was not stopping the payment. The hardest part was learning that I could love Claire without funding every choice she made, and that she could return only after she learned to approach me without an invoice in her hand. Would you have canceled the $48,000 payment that afternoon, or let the wedding finish and confronted her